My, people come and go so quickly here.
No, I don't know many people.
I know too many people. I guess we're both lonely.
Milk was a bad choice.
You crying? No. Are you crying? Are you crying? There's no crying. There's no crying in baseball.
It's the Al Travis Show. We absolutely love having Shannon Watson on. She's with Majority in the Middle, majoritymiddle.com. And I just throw it out there. Basically, they are trying to say that those of us that, no matter what side you're on, those of us can play well in the park together. Let's get together and make things happen. Was that work?
Absolutely, yes.
All right, good. Well, thank you for doing this for me. You ever get manicure, pedicure? Are you? You're one of those gals, aren't you?
You know, I would love to be, because who doesn't like some pampering? But this is probably TMI, but I am enormously ticklish over my whole body, just enormously ticklish. So if I was to go get a pedicure, that would be actually a dangerous situation for whoever would be giving me the pedicure, because I would hit them accidentally, yeah. And obviously, feeling very sorry about it. But so I don't. Yeah.
Got my first because I'm a guy, a pedicure.
Yeah.
This weekend with my wife. It was a weird experience. I found I am much more ticklish in the feet than I knew. I mean, I guess, you got ticklish feet. But that girl, I'm jumping in. She's like, "Oh, did I hurt you?" And like, no, that was funny. It was ticklish. It was weird. It was awkward. It was the most awkward I've ever felt. I wish Majority in the Middle would have been there. I do.
Oh, no.
The staff, wonderful. Kim's in Mankato. The place was fantastic. I love the chair. I want one. The massage chairs out there.
The massage chair, yeah.
But the gals in there, the other patrons, did not want Al ruining their gal time. You could tell they were just, "What are you doing here? You shouldn't be here." It was not pleasant in that way. It wasn't.
That's disappointing.
Yeah. And the other thing that was kind of weird, and I guess I have an issue with talking too much, my wife says. Yeah, I know. I agree. I don't get that. But this
Luckily,
gal
you get paid to do it. Right?
This gal comes over the gal comes over to do my feet, and I stick my hand out, and she looks and said, "I'm Al. I should at least know the name of the human that's going to be massaging my feet. It just seems normally." She looks at me. She looks at my wife and said, "Just your name, okay, Lee, whatever." I don't believe English was her first language. That isn't the problem. But then a lot of the things I would say didn't make sense. She's doing one of my toes, and I said, "Yeah, that one likes to stay home." This woman's face, she's like, and then my wife, "Just stop, Al." I said, "No, it's just a joke." And the gal looks up at my wife, the pig story, and "Oh, okay." And it was going on the whole time. I was being quite charming, to be honest, and I don't think she caught any of it, and that bothered me too.
That's interesting. So not being a pedicure enthusiast myself, I don't necessarily know what the culture is, and I don't know if there is a culture to interact with the person that you're with who's also receiving services, or if it is normal to interact with the person who's providing the service. That interesting of a question.
My first time, but I'm telling you, if some lady's taking a pic and go and have some old sock leftovers from 1983 out of your toenail, you should know her name. I just think that's... Why are you laughing? I don't think that's wrong. I don't think you should be... Well, maybe she'd rather just not know. That was me. I wanted to know. So anyway,
I don't know. I don't know if anonymity is good or bad or whatever.
Well, I think, like I said, again, 60 years. I don't know how my feet compare to anyone else's. I asked, "These the worst feet you ever saw?" She nudges the gal that's working on my wife's feet. "What do you think?" That not the worst. Is that a compliment? What is that? It's not the worst, but we're right up there. I had no idea. Anyway,
I think you should take it. Yes.
I'm taking it for what it's worth. So I suggest it. The cuticle thing. I don't know if you know what a cuticle is. It's like the little skin flap that goes in.
Yeah.
Well, mine have grown in abundance my whole life.
Right.
And she gets a clipping in there, and I said, "Do you think you should take all that off?" She looks at me and said, "Well, God put it there. It must do something. You guys just hack it off." My wife's elbows must be black and bruised. It's like, stop. I don't know.
Stop.
There must be a reason for a cuticle. You got them on your fingers, too. What do they do?
Right. I don't know. They give me something to mess with, evidently.
Yeah, got no on. Yeah, I have no idea. Anyway, enough of the manicure stuff. So we're 1 week away
We are 1 week away from constitutional adjournment. Yes.
Yeah, there's no chance in God's green earth that happens, right? I mean, be honest with me. I know you want everyone to get along. No one's got, how do I put this? Are they not sitting in the big powers that be, the governor and everybody else, just now deciding what the number's going to be and then work backwards from there?
Well, and that's part of the challenge is that figuring out that number, it has to be not only something that, that sort of financially works, because it is a requirement that the state have a balanced budget, but also that that each of them can get their caucuses to agree to. And that's usually the sticking point. It's not that the 4 or 5 leaders disagree. It's that there are members of the caucus that wouldn't necessarily vote for it. That being said, this year is awesome because it's not just you have to get the majority caucus to go along, but there are votes to be had on either
From
side.
the other side.
Yeah.
Well, that's where you love this. But here's if I could be king, if I could be king for the day, this whole process is backwards in my book. What should happen is the second the office or whoever comes out with that, we're going to be $6 billion in the hole in 4 years.
Right.
When they come out with that number, governor, head of the Senate, head of the House, they should get together and say, okay, here's our job. What's the number we're going to shoot for? Well, it's got to be $6 billion less if that's what we're going to do, or cut it in half. But you argue that thing out. Once it's argued out and say, okay, we're going to cut it $3 billion. We're going to cut it in half.
Okay.
Everyone agrees. Now you can go back to your little parties, the Senate and the House, and decide what you're going to do with that. How do you get to that number? It seems like Hoffman was on, and the department, his Human Services got their budget done through the Senate. Good for you. That's nothing, because the House has got to match. You got to match those up, and if you're too high and you go to the end game, and then they all say, well, that puts us over our number, we got to go back again. It just seems backwards. No one does their budget this way. You know what I'm saying? It seems backwards to me.
Yep. Well, and each individual, the House and the Senate, they are independent bodies. Sometimes they agree on stuff. Sometimes they don't. Sorry, there's a vacuum cleaner in here. So
that's right.
I'm
You're
sorry
fine.
for the background. So them each having sort of their own identity, particularly with the tie that's happening in the House side. I think the decision to let the co-chairs sort of figure out their own targets, I think was actually probably a pretty good preview of what could get through. And so now it's less about, Democrats versus Republicans, and it's more about House versus Senate, which actually is, believe it or not, a bigger rivalry.
Yeah, no, but let's just say Hoffman's right. He got his bill through with what he thinks is the cuts that he needs to make. Good for him. I applaud him all day long. But they're going to come back and say, okay, you're only off by 50%. Go get it again. Go get another 50. Everything he's done's out the window. He's got to go. It just seems like you're rehashing is my point. You start at the top, work down, and then when the House and Senate budgets match, at least you can go, and guess what? Not all the bills do. Great. With a little futzing in between, we'll get it there. It just seems backwards is all I'm saying. And we're not even touching the big stuff yet, the third rails. I mean, this is where if you're not, I'm going to go to break early. Some of these things that the Democrats got 2 years ago, which some of us would think, well, that's the first thing to go. We don't have the money now. We had it then, we don't now. Yeah. I think that was easy for the Republicans to fall on, and even some Democrats, I think the paper had today, like Nick Francis talking about some of the stuff with paid leave. But the left side of the left are saying, we didn't fight to get what we wanted, just to give this thing back. There's a lot of talk. I mean, the stuff I thought would be easy, not so easy. We'll talk about that with Shannon Watson right after this with Majority in the Middle.
Achieving your financial goals requires individual planning and a comprehensive approach. At Midwest Money Management, our mission is to provide you with the knowledge, tools, and confidence to feel comfortable financially today and secure about tomorrow. Learn more at MidwestMoneyManagement.com. That's MidwestMoneyManagement.com.
Securities offered through JW Cole Financial Inc., member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services offered through JW Cole Advisors Inc., Midwest Money Management, and JW Cole Financial Inc. and JW Cole Advisors Inc. are unaffiliated entities.
There are many ways to explore Alexandria. Some like to experience the outdoors and all the fun winter in Minnesota can provide. Pick your favorite way to get in touch with nature. Others like to explore downtown in the warm comfort of a boutique or gathered around a table with friends. You can do all of that or relax and do nothing at all. Come explore Alexandria. Start planning at explorealex.com.
Easily offended? The Al Travis Show is not for you. The Al Travis Show. All sides are welcome.
Love having her. She's Shannon Watson with Majority in the Middle, MajorityMiddle.com. Here's what I'm talking about. So Senator Nick Frentz, friend of the program, we love the guy.
Yes.
He did the bill for sick leave a year ago.
Yeah.
He's actually got a bill to, they call it sand down, move down some of the restrictions.
Right.
He also put together a bill that watered down some of the paid family leave programs, who's in, who's out. He'll survive. This sounds dramatic, but we're in radio. Can Senator Nick Frentz survive that middle-of-the-road blue dog stuff when everything is so close? 34, 33, 67, 67.
Mm-hmm.
He made the sick leave bill. Now he's got a bill this year saying, well, maybe we take a little off the top.
Right. Well, I think in the sort of situation that we've gotten to the last several years where we figure out, who's in the majority, which party's in the majority. And if they're in the majority, then they run the table. They chair the committees, they decide the agenda, they have the most votes. So they generally get past what they want. And what has been happening over the last 10, 15 years has been that they basically do all of the negotiations in the majority caucus. So the majority caucus basically decides in themselves sort of what's going to hit the floor, what's going to be able to pass. So a lot of the sort of really kind of interesting, to me anyway, the interesting debates haven't been happening in public, but 67-67 in the House and 34-33 in the Senate means that there is actually room to get votes from the middle if you've got something that's not going to get entirely through the majority caucus. And I think that's what the DFL is looking at right now. There was a floor debate over the Earn Sick and Safe Time was it Tuesday? I think it was. And I thought that was the best debate of the year, not because it was the most civil, because it was not. Not because it was the most based on merit, because it was not, but because the DFL members showed the enormous amount of sort of ideological diversity that is in their caucus. And while some people would say that the majority leader erred on letting that bill hit the floor, I've had people say that to me. I absolutely disagree, because what she may have done, accidentally or intentionally, is sort of thrown the doors to the big tent wide open. Like if you are a Democrat and you believe any of these things, you have representation here.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And again, I would like more transparency that way than not. This idea that on almost, well, you have put green lights boards on your website, but for the most part, things of any real consequence, that sounds horrible. It's been party line votes. Here's what I'm talking about.
It's been party line votes because that's the way the bills are structured. Yeah. They're structured to be able to get through the majority caucus. Yes. But
here's my point. And again, I lean to the right. I get that. So when the left has all the power and they start things, let's just say summer unemployment for cooks at school, whatever. Okay.
Yes.
They get to do that. There's $17 billion. They do it. I understand it. I'm not whining over spilled milk. But literally the next time we come to budget, guess what? $6 billion in the holes looking us in the face. Right. When I call it common sense, which is a slap to the other side. I'm not trying to. Well, the first thing we should look at is some of the things we just threw on 2 years ago. Can we do? To me, that just makes sense. And again, that's a terrible argument. I'm not trying to push my Democrat friends away. But that seems to me is something we should have that discussion on. But there are folks now literally with that open tent saying, no, wait a minute. We don't fight this hard to win these things, to give it up just because tough times are ahead. I'm glad that's out there. I'm glad we're able to see who is and who isn't. It isn't just the Dems, it's the left.
Right.
It's the hard times that show you who you are. Everybody's great in the good times. It shows you whoever, you know what I mean? The hard times show you who you really are. I stand for this or I stand for that because I'm going to fight for it. I'm not saying they're right or wrong. Well, I guess I am, but they have the right to fight for it. I'm not ripping that. But it shows where everybody lines up, and I'm happy about that.
Yeah, well, and this works now, and something that's brand new, sort of in theory. You don't necessarily know where the bumps in the road are. You don't necessarily know, and I mean, sometimes you do. There's intended outcomes and there's unintended consequences, and sometimes there's intended consequences. But one of the unintended consequences of that is that the school districts have been saying that we are having to pay more into unemployment insurance because these people are now eligible. And that's a problem for us. And it becomes a problem for everybody because the school districts, like, they don't have multiple revenue streams. They have taxing authority. And so that becomes an issue for everybody.
Oh, and again, it's just in that issue. I think all of these are coming up.
Absolutely.
Illegal immigrants in Minnesota getting Minnesota care. I think because it was the last thing in, we should have that look. And I get these people that say, no, we fight for wins. We're going to fight to keep it. We didn't do it just for now. So I get their argument, but I love the fact that those are the arguments we're having. Everyone should be put on record on how this is going to go. I'm more concerned because all these folks are talking 1 week out in the back room, the governor and the heads of each department, that they're going to come out with one big ominous thing and say, and then everybody votes for it.
I really hope that's not the situation.
Because then they get to hide. Somebody's going to say, I really didn't like that summer unemployment, but it was in the bill and I had to vote for it because I had this other thing that I really wanted. Everybody gets to hide that way. I'm hoping the hiding they take care of, but.
Well, they either get to hide or they wind up voting no because they're not willing to vote for the good things in relation to the bad things. Yeah.
That's my point. And that's why the omnibus thing drives me crazy. I don't know why we can't get to a point.
Well, and at some point, the thing I fear is at some point, and honestly, I thought it was going to happen with this last year's bill, but it's still making its way through the courts, is Minnesota has a single subject rule where each bill is only supposed to be about one thing, and those omnibus bills fly in the face of that. The challenge is the Minnesota Supreme Court has not been willing to weigh in on that and say, hey, no, this violates it. So that day will come someday. And then that puts everything that's in that bill in jeopardy.
It'll be interesting to see. The Supreme Court's tired of this legislature. All the things they've had to do to clean up this legislative stuff. I can see them saying, you know what? We'll deal with that another day. We've had enough of our time there. They've been busy. Shannon, love having you on the program. You're in the middle of a big push to get people to sign up for the program. How do they do it?
Yeah, absolutely. Go to majoritymiddle.org/join. Become a member.
And that's all it takes.
That's all it takes.
Man, you got to go and do that. Majoritymiddle.org. Majoritymiddle.org. Shannon, thanks for spending your time with us. Appreciate you.
Good to see you, Al. Happy Monday.
We'll talk.
There are many ways